Hey folks, in this video, let's make a graph. It's gonna be fun. Let's get going. We got one objective, and that's to be able to make a sweet graph using Google Sheets, and that should include a title, data labels on your axes, and also an equation if there's a line, which there will be. Here's a cat who's looking at some hot dog sandwiches. Yeah, there's sandwiches. I went there. So let's go over to Google Sheets and look at this stuff. I got some masses in grams. I made those up. I have some volumes in milliliters. I also made those up. And so what I would like to do is make a graph where the mass is on the y-axis, and I would like to have my volume on the x-axis. And what this will do is it will give me a slope equal to density. Density is equal to mass divided by volume, and our slope is equal to the y divided by the x. So mass divided by volume. Very nice. So before I barrel into doing any graphing here, there's something we should know. When you want to do graphing in Google Sheets, it's a good idea to put your x-axis values in front of your y-axis values. This will just make your life infinitely easier. So I have my masses. They're supposed to be on the y-axis. I'm going to move them into column number C. And so I'm going to click and drag down here to highlight it all. And then I'm going to hit the control button and also the X button to cut that sucker. That's the shortcut for cut. And then I'm going to hit control while I also press V to paste it into this new position. Ta-da! I moved it using the power of shortcuts. So now I'm ready to do some actual graphing. So I'm going to highlight my data. Ta-da! And I could either click the Insert Chart button over here, or I could go to Insert and click Insert Chart. And so the first thing I want to do, pretty much always when I'm doing graphing, is I want to change our chart type from a column. It's going to be a column by default, and we are going to always want to select a scatter chart. And so now this is a nice scatter chart. On our y-axis, we have our masses. Cool, those go up to about 15. Great. And our x-axis has these volumes. Sweet. So now we need to add some titles to one title and also labels for our axes, and then a line and an equation for that line. We're going to do all of that under Customize. So let's get in a chart title and axis titles. So I open this up, and the first thing that should come up is chart title under type. And so we can give this dude a title. Let's call this density of something, because it's something. I just made up all the numbers. But there it is. There's our title. Beautiful. Now we can change our type. I can click on that, and I'll go down to horizontal axis type. I'll click on that to select it. So horizontal, that's going to be our horizontal line or our x-axis. And what do we have there? Our x-axis has volume. So I'm going to put a capital V volume. And it's important when you're labeling your axes, you want to include whatever units you're using to measure. So what are we using to measure volume? Well, milliliters. These are all measurements in milliliters. And I will include the units in parentheses. So volume with milliliters in parentheses. I could also write it out, but it's cool to use abbreviations. And so I will also go to the vertical axis. And so vertical axis we know is y-axis, and we have mass there. And same thing, we want to include the units in parentheses. So I'll put grams in parentheses there. Ta-da! I've got a title and I've got labels on my axes. So the last thing we need to do is add in a data line and have an equation for that line. So to get to that part, there's two things I could do. I could either click this little arrow chevron-y thing to close chart and axis titles and go into your series then, or I could just click on one of my data points. And that's going to open up this series section. And I want to scroll down and select trend line because I would like to add a trend line. And I'm going to scroll down again. We want to keep the trend line linear. We're pretty much always going to do linear trend lines, but we can use a number of different styles. And what I would like to do with this is for label, I would like to use the equation as my label. So now I have a label here, and that says the equation of the line. And this is our slope. That's our density. Cool. And the other thing I would like to do is I would like you to show the R-squared value. That's a measurement that shows how closely the computer's line fits all of your data points. The closer to 1 that number is, the better your data points fit this line. So these fit really well. 0.997 is really, really rad. We would like this number to be above 0.9. Cool. So that's how you make a sweet graph with a title and axes that have labels and a line and an equation for that line. Sweet. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your life. Ta-ta.